Here's a book called Wrinkle in Time. It's one of my favorite books. I think you'll really like it, so here's a preview. A Wrinkle in Time is about a book where they're trying to save their father. And these are the three kids, Calvin, Meg, and Charles. And there's a couple mysterious women who are not actually women. So here's one of them. That's Mrs. Who. And it's a really fun book, and their father gets trapped in this place called Camazotz. Camazotz is a place where everything's the same. There's this big dome called It, and a brain lies on it, and that's at the end of the book. And Charles gets trapped. But Camazotz is a place where everything's the same. So they all have to jump rope at the same time. When they play, they have to bounce the ball at the same rhythm. And it's really, really just a strange pleasure. And when they go to Camazotz, they go to the Central Intelligence Center. And there's this man sitting there with red eyes. And he's sitting there, and the three children are here, and they're like, "Excuse me, we want to find our father." And Charles is like, "Oh, I want to find, who are you? What are you?" And then he's like, "Stare into my eyes and see." And Charles gets sucked in. His pupils are all gone. But what Meg does is Meg comes in and knocks Charles over. And so Charles is like, "Oh gosh, Meg, what are you doing?" And he's like, "That's not pleasant. Meg, can we please try this again?" And she says no. And so there's also these black shadow men that are sort of ghosts, and they try to gather what this dude does. And so they eat this feast made out of it was a nice yummy turkey dinner. It was so good. It was nice and juicy turkey, yummy, right? And salad, and there was salad on the plate, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so yummy, we must eat this." So they eat the dinner. Then they find out it's sand. So it's not, he really tricked them. It smelled just fine like a turkey dinner, but it really wasn't. And so that's why it's really weird on Camazotz. Charles gets sucked into the man with red eyes, and then he turns into a weird Charles Wallace. His pupils are gone from his eyes, and he's like, "Oh, I'll take you to your father." And then her father's in the cell, and he can't get out, and he can't see anything, and he's grown a beard, hair, and he's so old. But the two children follow him. Calvin got so worried that he tackled Charles. But Charles "Do you want me to take you to father?" And Meg's like, "Just let him, just let him." Meg is like, "We can't let go." And this big Camazotz planet is a black planet. It's behind the big black thing, which the black thing is what the father's trying to escape from. Then Charles gets so mad that Meg used Mrs. Who's glasses to get into father. that he had to take them all to it, the mysterious bad it. When they were staying there, they got sucked in, and Meg got a gift, also her fault. And it sucked into everybody and sucked in with this red beat, like the bouncing balls, and it sucked in their minds to the it. And it was a pulsing thing, and they got trapped out. So their father tested them away. But Meg accidentally, got sick. They tested back through the black thing, and Father and Calvin were fine. Mr. Murray. But Meg was on the ground. They thought if she was alive or not, but she couldn't open her eyes at all, and they thought she might have been dead, but she was alive, and she wanted to tell them that they were alive. The black thing made her almost pass. So they were trying to help her, but then this weird squiddy thing with a furry chest and no eyes said, "We'll take her. Is she okay?" There were 3 of them. There was fur on their chests, and they had tentacles. The biggest one, they called it a beast. So, Meg felt all better and went into who they call Aunt Beast's arms. She felt way better after.
"No," she cried triumphantly. "Like and equal are not the same thing at all."
"Good girl, Meg," her father shouted at her. But Charles Wallace continued as though there had been no interruption.
"Camelots are all equal. In Camelot, everybody is the same as everybody else."
But he gave no argument, provided no answer, and she held on to the moment of revelation.
Like and equal are 2 entirely different things.
But for the moment she escaped the power from it. But how? She knew that her own puny little brain was no match for this great, bodiless, pulsing, writhing mass on the round dais. She shuddered and looked at it. In the lab at school, there was a human brain preserved for formaldehyde, and the seniors were preparing for college to take it out and look and study it. Meg had felt when the day came she would never be able to endure it, but now she thought that if only she had a dissecting knife, she would slash at it, cutting ruthlessly through the cerebrum and the cerebellum. The words spoke within her directly this time, not through Charles.
"Don't you realize that if you destroy me, you'll also destroy your little brother?"
If that great brain were crushed, would every mind under it control on Camazotz die too? But Charles Wallace and the man with red eyes, and the man who the #1 spelling machine on the 2nd grade level, and all the playing ball and skipping rope, and the mothers with men and women going out of the buildings. Was their life dependent completely on it? Were they beyond the possibility of salvation? She felt the brain reaching for her again and let the stubborn control slip. Meg, the red fog glazed in her eyes. Faintly, she heard her father's voice, though she knew she was shouting at the top of his lungs.
"The periodic table of elements, Meg, say it."
A picture flashed into her mind of winter evenings spent sitting before the fire with her father.
Hydrogen, helium.
She started obediently. Keep them in their proper automatic order. What next? She knew it. Yes.
lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine.
She shouted out the words at her father and turned away from it.
Neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon.
Just sound it out.
Phosphorus.
Too rhythmical.
Her father shouted.
What's the square root of 5?
For a moment, she was able to concentrate. Rack your brains yourself, Meg. Don't let it rack them.
The square root of 5 is 2.236.
She cried triumphantly.
Because 2.236 times 2.236 equals 5.
What's the square root of 7?
The square root of 7 is...
She broke off. She wasn't holding out. It was getting her, and she couldn't concentrate, not even on math. As soon as she too would be absorbed in it, and she would be absorbed in it. Tesser, sir, she heard Calvin's voice through the darkness. Tesser! Thank you for watching my review on Wrinkle in Time. This is Annie Joyner and my friend that helped me.